What's up, guys? Welcome back to... Let's see if that helps there. Maybe that'll help with the glare on my glasses. Taking a couple weeks off. Some things came up in my personal life, but I'm back. And I'm really excited about what we're looking at today because it's turned out to be quite the fascinating little deconstruction of a movie that admittedly I didn't understand at first. It wasn't one that really struck me as anything extraordinary, even after multiple viewings.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Just wanted to let you know that we will not be landing. I repeat, we will not be landing because Zod is going to kill us all, alright?
I will find him!
Oh my god, he's here.
But first, what is an allegory? What is an allegory? An allegory is a story that takes a complex issue and attempts to understand it through a story. You could say it's a story with two meanings. Say there's a story about two neighbors. One is male and one is female. And the whole story is about those two neighbors bickering with each other. That's the surface level story. Deeper level could be, maybe it's a commentary on gender, about men and women in general fighting with each other, how they fight with each other. One of the key ways human beings understand the world is through storytelling, is through allegories. If you look back at, say, the mythological creation stories that we have, those are allegories for how the universe came to be. Not exactly scientific explanations, but stories to better understand the world at that time that they were written. Really, you could argue that any story we tell is an allegory. And so, that brings me to the film we're going to be talking about today, which is Man of Steel. So Man of Steel was a film I didn't necessarily understand up front, especially in my first viewing and even after multiple viewings. Sure, it was a darker reimagining of Superman, which I always appreciate. I'm one of those guys who loves dark and gritty. The best stories teach you about yourself. You know, you learn something from the stories. I guess that was the problem. I wasn't learning anything about myself watching that movie. On the surface, it is a story of a superhuman-like being from another planet, an alien, who is sent to Earth by his parents to basically preserve these dying people. So the story on the surface is about the man finding his way on Earth, experiencing humans, and ultimately becoming Superman. So it's about Superman finding himself, right? It's an origin story for Superman. But I propose that this story is actually an allegory for, wait for it,
I know.
Jesus. This is the largest Superman figure I have. So I propose that Jesus and Superman have some parallels, ones that make not only Man of Steel a more compelling movie, but make Jesus' life much more enlightening. Man of Steel, through its allegory, through its surface level story, examines Jesus' story and journey and his struggles. It's like an epic supernatural war. It's like an epic. So, I'm not going to just cradle him the whole time though. So, let's get into it. It's best understood if we examine Jesus' life parallel to the events of Man of Steel. So actually in Christian tradition, before the world was founded, theoretically, there was a war in heaven. God and his angels were battling Lucifer, who was one of God's angels, until he decided, you know what, I think I could do better. He's the classic guy who looks at his boss and thinks, you know, if I ran things. So Lucifer rebelled against God. He wanted to be God. Lucifer and his angels, because he had a cadre of angels with him, so it was like a civil war in heaven. And guess who won? God, of course, won. Satan was cast down onto earth. Now, a great story that depicts this is Paradise Lost by John Milton. Paradise Lost is an epic poem that actually follows two different kind of narratives. One deals with Lucifer, or Satan, after he is cast out. This is from the very beginning of Paradise Lost. Then touches the prime cause of man's fall, the serpent, or rather Satan in the serpent, who, revolting from God and drawing to his side many legions of angels, was by the command of God driven out of heaven with all his crew into the great deep. Let us now take a look at a particular scene of Man of Steel. So in this scene, you can kind of place the role of God onto Jor-El, and the role of Lucifer being put onto Zod. And see what you think.
Our energy reserves were exhausted. What would you have us do, Al?
Look to the stars, like our ancestors did. There are habitable worlds within reach. We can begin by using the old outposts.
Are you seriously suggesting that we evacuate the entire planet?
No. Everybody here is already dead. Give me control of the Codex. I will ensure the survival of our race. There is still hope. I have held that hope in my hands.
This council has been disbanded.
On whose authority?
Mine. The rest of you will be tried and punished accordingly.
What are you doing, Zod? This is madness.
What I should have done years ago. These lawmakers, with their endless debates, have led Krypton to ruin.
And if your forces prevail, you'll be the leader of nothing.
Then join me. Help me save our race. We'll start anew. We'll sever the degenerative bloodlines that led us to this state.
And who will decide which bloodline survives, Zod? You?
Don't do this, El. The last thing I want is for us to be enemies.
You have abandoned the principles that bound us together. You've taken up the sword against your own people. I will honor the man you once were, Zod. Not this monster you've become.
Take him away.
But of course, Jor-El has a son. God has a son. And of course, Jor-El sends his son, Superman, onward to Earth, where he can be this model to humanity. And what did God do in Christian tradition? What did he do in the person of Jesus? He sent his own son to Earth to live among us, become human. There's this thing about Jesus, that's one of the fascinating points about him, is that he's both God and human. And then of course we see Zod after he kills Jor-El, exiled from Krypton, aka the first scene we see Clark in. What is the first thing we see him doing?
Watch it, dumbass!
He's on a fishing boat. I'm gonna pull up a specific Bible passage here. Now this is Jesus talking. This is when he recruits his first followers. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. So of course the first thing we see Clark doing is a fisherman, and it focuses on his interaction not with the fish but with the men, the people he's around. So Jesus died, we think he died around the age of 33. Lo and behold.
Sir, you can't expect us to not take precautions. You could be carrying some kind of alien pathogen.
Been here for 33 years, Doctor. Haven't infected anyone yet.
And so Superman spends a lot of the movie kind of just wrestling with his morality, wrestling with his destiny. Seeing Superman wrestle with who he is, it attempts to unpack why a figure like Superman, and following the allegory to its conclusion, a figure like Jesus would be rejected, hesitant to reveal his existence. And then the tone of the film takes a turn in one specific scene. Now remember, in this allegory, Zod is Lucifer. You could see this event where Zod is letting the humans know about Superman, this Kal-El, this Kryptonian who has infiltrated and just lives among them. You could see this event as a parallel to the fall of man. When you look at the fall of man, it deals not only with the introduction of sin into the world, but the introduction of, or the loss of innocence. Adam and Eve were living in harmony. They were completely naked because they felt no shame. And of course, they took a bite of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And that introduced sin into the world. But think about the tree, the knowledge of good and evil. Learning about the existence of good and evil is one of the prime things that destroy someone's innocence, right? You think of a child becoming a teenager. You learn that not everybody is your friend. Not everybody has good intentions. And so you could say that humanity lost its innocence in its fall from grace. And that, of course, you can apply here. Humans now know about Superman. They know that there are life forms out there. It kind of spoils their cosmic innocence, if you will. And immediately upon learning that he will need to surrender, where does he go to seek counsel?
The visitors do not represent a threat, despite the ominous tone of their message. Who is this Kal-El person?
And what is right over his shoulder as he is seeking this counsel?
Zod can't be trusted. The problem is, I'm not sure the people of Earth can be either.
And of course, he surrenders himself to humanity. He makes that distinction himself. How does this enlighten our understanding of Jesus? It's this idea that he looked out and saw value in us. And you could cast that same idea onto Clark surrendering himself to humans here. You could literally see this almost like his crucifixion. And the whole theme of the film is that even though you have to look deep, there is good in humanity. And despite all of his mixed experiences of humanity early on, he still chose to give himself for humanity. And then another major episode of Jesus' life is just put in the movie. And that is this vision that Superman is given by Zod, basically explaining what Zod's plans are. But in the context of Jesus' life, this takes on a much deeper meaning. So in the story, Jesus actually went out into the desert and faced temptation from the devil. It was just a testing of Jesus. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "It is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. "All of this I will give you," he said, "if you will bow down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan. For it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." Then the devil left him, and angels came and attended him. So this is Zod tempting him with the power, and it's saying, hey, this is what I'm bringing. I'm giving you a chance to be a part of it. And what does Superman do? He says, no. Also, on a side note, we see Zod visit the consciousness of Jor-El, and they have a candid talk. So it's almost this surreal discussion you're having between God and Satan.
He accepted. Genesis chamber coming online, sir.
Stop this, Zod. While there's still time.
Haven't given up lecturing me, have you? Even in death.
Our people can coexist.
So we can suffer through years of pain trying to adapt like your son has?
You're talking about genocide.
Yes, and I'm arguing its merits with a ghost.
We're both ghosts, Zod. Can't you see that? The Krypton you're clinging onto is gone.
Ship, have you managed to quarantine this invasive intelligence?
Failed.
I have.
Then prepare to terminate it. I'm tired of this debate.
Silencing me won't change anything. My son is twice the man you were. And he will finish what we started. I can promise you that.
Tell me, you have Jor-El's memories, his conscience. Can you experience his pain? I will harvest the codex from your son's corpse, and I will rebuild Krypton atop his bones.
But it leans heavily on this idea that Jor-El, and therefore God, lives on in Clark Kent / Jesus, respectively. And then we get to one of the most satisfying scenes. Superman against the World Engine. He destroys that which is destroying humanity. So in the context of Jesus, this is Jesus destroying sin. In the Christian story, Jesus' death and resurrection are him claiming power over sin. It really paints this kind of beautiful, almost operatic production of the Jesus story and the Jesus mythos. Finally, he has his final duel with Zod. This dramatizes the battle between Jesus and Satan. He had to not only defeat sin, but he had to defeat the source of that sin. That sin had originated with Satan way back in his civil war in heaven when he fell.
Look at this. We could have built a new Krypton in this squalor, but you chose the humans over us. I exist only to protect Krypton. That is the sole purpose for which I was born. And every action I take, no matter how violent or how cruel, is for the greater good of my people. And now, I have no people. My soul. That is what you have taken from me. I'm going to make them suffer, Cal. These humans you've adopted. I will take them all from you, one by one.
You're a monster, Zod. And I'm gonna stop you.
Satan is defeated, but was Superman happy about it? It's that poetic license that this film takes with the story of Jesus and the story of the fall of man and the redemption of man from Christian tradition. It imagines very human things about Jesus. It imagines what he felt like towards this fallen angel. There's a enormous responsibility you must feel there, but there's also an enormous sense of regret. It didn't have to end this way. Zod's pride, Zod's belief in what he's doing will not let him stop, and therefore he must be stopped. But as you can see, that's how allegory works, right? Jesus himself spoke in allegories. And so ultimately, by understanding Man of Steel as an allegorical tale to try to deconstruct the journey of Jesus, what can we figure out about Jesus from back then by bringing him to here, to modern day? And I learned several things about Jesus. The idea that he would have felt pain at the idea of Satan being destroyed. Again, it just emphasizes how important compassion is, right? This idea that you shouldn't want to destroy. You should want always to help. And in the end, what this allegory taught me about Jesus is that whether I myself believe him to be a savior or not, there is a faith you have to have. And it's a faith not necessarily in a specific religious figure, but a faith in good, a faith in your fellow man. Ultimately, these stories of gods and superheroes fighting is about that struggle. They're all allegories, man.
This man is not our enemy.
Thank you, Colonel.